Your brain is currently performing a high-stakes trade-off. To keep pace with the always-on culture of the digital world, your survival neurology is beginning to override the very circuits responsible for your most creative thoughts. Social media platforms are engineered variable ratio reinforcement schedules, exactly like addictive slot machines. Here, dopamine isn't about the pleasure of a notification, but the anticipation. The surge hits seconds before the reward opens, conditioning you to check your device compulsively. This constant state of seeking creates a psychological vacuum. Your brain becomes so preoccupied with the possibility of digital feedback that it begins to struggle with any task that requires sustained internal focus. Deep within the prefrontal cortex, the ventromedial region acts as your brain's status detector. It spent hundreds of thousands of years tracking your social standing within a group to ensure you weren't left behind. Evolutionary biologists point to Dunbar's number, the idea that our brains are only equipped to maintain stable social relationships with about 150 people at a time. But today, we force this ancient circuitry to calculate our worth against millions of highly curated digital personas. We are asking a system built for a small tribe to process a global digital comparison. This mathematical mismatch leaves your social circuitry in a state of constant overactivation. It consumes the cognitive energy typically reserved for building an independent internal model of the world. To navigate this overwhelming social landscape, the brain relies on the STORM framework, social top-down response modulation. This is your internal reputation manager, and its job is to keep your behavior aligned with the group. The moment you expect your work to be evaluated by public metrics or likes, your focus shifts. You stop exploring an idea for its own sake and start optimizing for external approval. During this process, the medial prefrontal cortex intervenes to manage social risk. It actively suppresses ideas that feel too deviant or unconventional, favoring thoughts that are guaranteed to fit in. This research confirms that when we fear being set apart from our peers, we experience evaluation apprehension. This leads us to withhold our most creative ideas and instead generate unoriginal, safe responses. Because of this biological veto, the brain begins to default to predictable, prepotent routines. It socializes us into being adapters who follow established rules, rather than innovators who challenge them. This pressure results in digital identity incongruence. We curate a false, idealized version of ourselves to secure feedback, creating a persistent mental strain between our authentic self and our online performance. But look at what happens when there is an absence of that expected validation. Your brain activates the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex and the anterior insula. These are the same neural substrates that register the sensation of physical injury and bodily pain. For our ancestors, being excluded from the tribe was a death sentence. The brain's neural alarm system cannot distinguish between a lack of likes and a threat to your physical survival. Algorithmic conformity is not a lack of imagination. It is a desperate biological reflex to escape the pain of social rejection. After the surge of validation, the brain enters a come-down state. To restore balance, it initiates a downward adaptation, pushing your dopamine transmission well below its natural baseline and inducing digital fatigue. At the same time, the prefrontal cortex is structurally exhausted. Constant performance tracking and rapid context switching have worn down the circuits responsible for cognitive control. Quantitative data shows after 20 minutes of continuous use, prefrontal beta power, tied to executive function, plunges by 22%. This collapse impairs top-down inhibition. Without prefrontal control, you ignore long-term goals for the impulsive hit of another digital check. The result is a total loss of the cognitive stamina required for deep, innovative problem-solving. Your brain is left in a state of chronic deficit. The capacity for sudden insight, the flashes of clarity where unrelated concepts click into a single solution, resides in the default mode network. This system relies on restful, introspective thinking. But chronic performance anxiety locks this network into a hyper-connected, maladaptive state. Instead of creative synthesis, your mind becomes centered on rumination and status threats. Original thought requires the coherence of alpha waves, the focus of sustained working memory, and the courage to deviate from the tribal norm. Prioritizing the approval of strangers effectively silences the brain's highest cognitive functions. The price of social safety is an algorithmic cage.